Aquarians, I'm so excited to have you here. I am lovingly calling this like the rainbow dream chasers kind of deal that we're going to go through. We're basically going to be looking at what a particular, pick one, dream, ambition, goal, whatever. Pick one. And that's what we're going to be discussing today. Highly recommend grabbing your journal. We're going to have some hard-hitting questions that could potentially be very good for potentially working on hard-hitting questions that will help you achieve said dream, but may require you to put in a little bit more effort than maybe you were initially thinking. So be ready to get called out a little bit today. Now, these are general readings, so if you are not used to a general reading, sometimes just everything doesn't click. That's just something that happens. I am a big fan of skeptics. I'm a big fan of having a little bit of hesitancy when watching. I think that's important with tarot. I mainly make these so that you can kind of get an idea of what kind of tarot reader I am, and for those who may like the journaling aspect and self-growth aspect, that's the kind of reader I like to be. I am a semi-closeted tarot reader who is clairaudience, I believe. I do hear voices, and I have been checked out. It's not something else. So I tap into higher powers and higher beings, and often like the higher self, to figure out what we can be doing here. If you want a bit more of a tunnel or a more funneled down, kind of fine-tuned, pinpointed reading for yourself, I do have private readings in the description at Ko-Fi. Feel free to check those out if that is something of interest to you, or if you feel very called or appreciate my work in this video, I do appreciate a tip or donation in that aspect as well. Blah, 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 blah. Cool. We can move on now. I do want to give one big, huge caveat for today. We are going to be talking about potentially some finances. We are probably going to talk about some other things. As always, sometimes the tarot likes to tap into mental or medical or whatever kind of things going on in your life. I am no replacement for an actual professional in any of these fields. Please seek out professional help in any respect, not just in health, but also in financial and business and other things as well. I am not in charge of your life. The magic is with you guys. You have the powers and can always change your fate. I truly believe that. But there are some things that having a professional will actually help you go along in that journey in a lot better place. This is just kind of a stepping stone and really more of a point of self-growth, in my opinion. But that being said, what are we doing? How do we do it? And how do we keep going? If you've done a pick a deck before, you are more than welcome to go ahead and jump ahead to where you know you're going. For the rest of you, or for those who may want to know a little bit more about the decks, let's talk about it. First and foremost, pick up with your intuition. Highly recommend going with that the feeling in your gut. Often mine comes from the stomach. That third chakra, the yellow chakra, is really where I feel it often, where I'll be like, that's the thing. Occasionally my heart chakra, I think, is calling it, but typically I find my yellow chakra is this is the one. This is the one that you are meant to go with, and I usually listen to that. So often that gut feeling, as I typically call it, is really where I'm going with it, and for some of you, you will also feel that. Go ahead. Go with that one. And if you're like, I don't even know where to go, there's a timestamp down below in the description, or there might be automatic chapters on the video that you can find out which pile you're going, and they just go 1, 2, 3, 4. So trust your gut. If you need a little bit more, because nothing's particularly calling, sometimes a little bit more info helps. Let's talk about that, because in pile 1, we have the Landscapes Tarot. I love this deck. I love most of my decks. So the Landscapes Tarot is this beautiful, as per the name suggests, landscape art. This art is beautiful and wonderful and just nice and easy to look at. There's no humans in it. There are a decent chunk of animals, so if that is something that you are interested in looking at, this is that. But they really do look at it as more of a landscape than focusing on an animal or animals specifically. So that is something that you may want to consider. It has beautiful colors, just excellent art. It's a gorgeous deck. Highly recommend for anybody who is even slightly thinking they're called to it. It's actually a really beautiful deck. In pile 2, we have the Antiques Anatomy. I do have to caveat this one right off the bat. This one does have sharp objects like knives, blades, various things in very predominant striking ways. There is an antique anatomy, as it suggests. There is skeletons and various organs and stuff drawn in a more realistic way. There is some more graphic imagery. While this is not a bloody or guts-induced deck, there is a sense of like macabre gothicness to it. So if that is something that you do not like or cannot handle or do not feel comfortable with, please skip this pile. The third deck is the Rider-Waite Smith deck. Now, if you look up the Queen of Cups on a tarot card on Google, this is probably the art that's going to come up. It's going to be from this deck. So this is going to be your classic Rider-Waite Smith art that most people, if you've seen tarot in some way, shape, or form, this is going to be very familiar to you. For those of you who are probably like, I don't know anything about tarot, this might be something actually really fun to see because it's the classic art. And then our last one is the Wisdom of the Owls. I love this deck, but it does have a little bit of a bite sometimes. I think sometimes it gives me I understand the fact that owls sometimes have an ill omen to them. This deck sometimes has that side to it. I have always been fascinated by them, though. So this deck is a very fun, probably the most colorful out of all of these decks, like most vibrant-wise. I highly recommend for anybody who is interested in just having a ton of color upon them. So if you know which one to go with, feel free to jump ahead. If you are still unsure, feel free to pause the video. Some people like to hover their hand over their screen or their finger over their phones. I have never had that much of a connection, so sometimes I just need to pause and stop listening to the person, me in this case, yapping away about the stuff, and just sit and listen for a minute to see what I can feel, hear, whatever. Sometimes people just, take a moment and look around and then realize, oh, something else is calling to me, and that reminds them of one of these decks. So take your time and pause now. Otherwise, pile one, we're going to get started. Hello, pile one, and welcome. You've chosen the Landscapes Tarot. I brought out some crystals. I thought it would be fun. I use these ones typicly for chakra work. So I feel like there's a little bit of chakra stuff in this. I'm not going to go super deep into it. I'm still learning a lot about chakras. So, but some of you who do know more may notice some things as we go along that you'll kind of realize, oh, that makes sense with this chakra. So we'll get into it if we do see something that makes sense. But hopefully you have your journal and whatever your writing utensil is, and then hopefully you've written what your goal, dream, or ambition is at the top. And we're just going to dive right in and determine, are you determined to succeed at this, whatever the cost? Are you willing to do whatever it takes? Or are you only in it for the easy, or are you only in it for, like, if it's a quick buck kind of a thing? How determined are we to be in this? I am trying to determine where this energy is that it's wanting. I think it was this card. No. I'm going to shuffle some more. Sorry, this deck has been a little bit finicky. If you've watched this deck in any of the previous videos, she's been a bit she's been very particular, and then my lives, I sometimes have to sit and shuffle for a minute, but this is feeling like it. All right. So, are you determined to succeed whatever the cost? And we have justice right off the bat. We're starting with justice, and interesting that we start with justice, in my opinion. I'm curious because I think some other cards might be a little bit more telling as we go along. Potentially, though, you are aware that this could go either way. There's kind of this, could go one way, could go another, like the scales of justice kind of idea is what I'm thinking of, and how they can tip one way or the other. I think you're aware that this could go a couple different ways for you. If you're a salmon in a creek, you might make it to spawn, but you also might get eaten by a bear. That's the circle of life kind of a thing. And where are you in this? And what do you, groundedly determine from that? Interesting. I want to pull more cards before I say too much more, because I do think that's going to be a big deal. But I do think it's interesting to have Justice as our kind of our foundational card here. And then to move into this next question with the orange card of, is this like gonna actually fulfill what you truly desire? Is this dream what you actually want? Are you actually ready? Is this your calling? Is this what you really want to have? Yeah, it's this card. Okay. This card, again, this deck has been a little bit picky about what cards it wants. So sometimes it's in the top 3 and it reads as the top card. Yeah, it's actually the second card. Okay. If you say so. Okay, so if the fulfillment of this dream, what you truly desire. So if this goes perfectly, is that actually what you want? And we have the 4 of Pentacles. Okay. From what it seems, this is a pretty hardcore yes. Of like, yeah, I do want this. And I think also what's really nice is that we're having very good base cards. Very good grounding. This is where we're starting cards. And what I mean by this is that with Justice, I really feel like you are at a point where the scales can tip either way. But if they tip in your favor, you want this. This is going to provide some stability for you. This is going to provide a very solid foundation. So whatever this goal, this dream, this ambition you have, you want it because it's going to offer something that's really stable in your life. Something that you can sit and count on, which is going to be really nice. Can't always say that about everything. But I do like that this is one of those things where it seems like you've thought this through. You've taken some time. You've really actually put this desire. You probably heard me say, hey, put your goal down. And you went, I know exactly what I'm doing. It felt very, I don't know about decisive, but it feels like this is the thing that you went, well, this is the thing that I've had on my mind for the longest. Let me do that one. And it's really nice. You don't always get that kind of decisiveness. Now, I'm interested. Have you done the work? The facts and figures kind of a deal. Have you crunched to the numbers? Have you looked at what the actual reality of this is? Have you looked at what other people are doing? Have you seen what the market looks like? Whatever that could be for you. Have you seen, kept an eye on everything? Do you actually see it adding up? Specifically for success. Are we really going to be successful if we look at this very, not emotionally, not with our heart, just like straight, what do we actually look at and factually look at and go, yeah, this is good, this is bad, this is whatever. What are the facts and figures look like for success? Hold on. Facts and figures for success. Okay. Facts and figures for success is the 8 of Pentacles. Now, I'm loving that we're getting Pentacle cards, especially if you ask for a financial thing. A lot of good things with the Pentacles financially wise. This is interesting. Okay. I'm getting this, like, it's not what you think it is. You have done your research, it seems. But, like, I don't think you know what your piece in the whole thing is. There's something, it feels like you're missing something. This is probably going to be a little bit of a curveball because you've probably put in so much work, and I think at some point you're going to realize, oh, hold on. I actually missed a point, but I don't think you're going to realize it now or any time in the immediate future. I think it's going to take a while when you, like, start setting into this project that you'll realize, oh, Yeah, my piece in this is actually a little bit more busy than I expected it to do, kind of a thing. I like, though, that we're pulling pentacles. These are great finance business cards, kind of a thing. So we're off to a really nice feel. And I like that justice card. Like, this feels very grounded. Like, you've thought about this. You've spent the time. You've done the work. And I like that. Now we're going to talk about the speed, though, of this. Like, should you just let this keep growing slowly as it feels like you have? Or follow your heart and go all out? Do we just go for it? Or do we just keep kind of slow building? Is this going to be something that you like? I don't read flyaways. It's bad shuffling. Well, nope. This case, I guess it wants that card. Do you want this? So how fast should we be moving on this? Oh, we have the Empress. Ooh, the Empress. Okay. This is an interesting card. Like, start gathering your resources. Start, like, building the toolbox. You need to start having an actionable plan if you haven't been. If this has just been, like, a slow building thought, you've been thinking through it, where you've only just been, like, in my head, this is what would happen. Here's what would be X, Y, Z. You need to start putting this into action. And, like, actually looking at what does this take. And it might not necessarily be putting money down or anything, but I do think, like, where would you build your website if you're going to do that? Or what does the actual, like, financial plan look like for this? There seems to be a lot of finances happening in this, so I'm assuming a business or potentially something. It feels very businessy, your particular goal. Due to this being a general reading, it might not be for you that this is a business, but I do think that there is a point of, like, you need to figure out what actually is coming and what this actually would take. If you're trying to create, like, a social meetup, what does it actually take to create that? Where is there a room for free that you need to start looking at locations, how much it would cost, what's the plan for that? If you're doing it through a local business, are you going to go to the public library? Like, things like that are going to be needing to get figured out at this point. This is the time to start, like, getting your ducks in a row and looking at what it is. It doesn't necessarily mean booking anything. I don't think that we're at that point in this, is that you don't have to quickly book it, but you do need to start taking this very, very seriously. Now, I do think that if you are at the point where you are like, I've started gathering resources, gather as many as you can. Gather all of the sources you need. If you need it, if you're trying to create a little business, find out who you're manufacturing through. Find out who you're sourcing stuff through. What's your social media plan? Do you already have the handles picked out? Do you know if they're available or not? All of that stuff. Various pieces that we can be looking at in here. And you're going to want to make sure that you are making sure all those sources are ready and set to go. Certain things are free, like social media handles and such. You might want to claim those now. If you haven't, if you've just been kind of keeping an eye on them, might be a good time to grab them and do it. If this is something, though, that you have some financial stuff that is your next step, this is your sign to go ahead and take that next step. But I think for most of you, you're not quite at that point where the plunge is there. I think we're really just kind of prepping. Now, I do want to say, and I think you should always take this whole thing in one as well, because we are just revealing one at a time. Sometimes there's a very clear picture by the end. Our next thing that we're going to look at is your confidence, your knowledge, and experience. Do you have it to pursue this? Do you have all of the stuff to pursue this next step? And no, it's this card. Okay. So we're going to look at if you have all of the knowledge, experience, and everything to pursue the next step. And then One of Cups. One of Cups is a very nice card. Pretty confident, yes, in my opinion. I do think that there is an emotional aspect that you need to be aware of. Are you ready for this emotional toil? Potentially toil. The word I was going for was toll, but toil I don't think is necessarily a bad way to also potentially look at it. This is going to probably stretch you a little bit. This is going to potentially make you rethink some stuff. Potentially look at if you are interested how serious are you going to take this? Are you actually going to pursue everything? Like, and emotionally, this is going to take a lot more work. Again, we're pulling at the Eight of Pentacles, that little B again. Are you ready to, like, lose downtime? That recharge time's not going to be there if you pursue this new thing. You're not going to have as much. You're going to have to be aware that sometimes there are sacrifices. And to be clear here, if your goal or ambition or dream was like a new project to start, and it's not like a full-blown business, it's not a full-blown anything, you're just like, is my next craft project gonna be, should I start this particular craft project? The sign is yes, but just know that it's going to be a lot more work than you expect, and it's going to take up more time than you expect. You're probably going to run into some hiccups along the way, and I think you're emotionally ready, but you do need to be emotionally prepared. You're somebody who I think can definitely handle it, but I don't know if you're necessarily wanting to or ready to, like, fully commit to that. So just be prepared. There's going to be a lot of emotions that happen in this, and that's not always desired or wanted, and some people don't want that. Now, I do think it's going to be important to look at this really fun experience. Now, this is where, if you do chakra work, this is the third eye. And this is like about intuition and having an open mind. And this is going to be about what hidden resources or gifts will emerge if you go ahead. So if we move forward with this, what gifts, what resources will emerge? What gifts, what resources will emerge? I think, yeah, it's this one. All right. We have the Knight of Wands. Okay. I love this card for your hidden gifts to show up in. I think this is a really great card. The Knight of Wands, this Lynx is so ready to jump into action. They're so excited and passionate, and they're just ready to go. And I think this is almost very interesting that it's at the end of the wheel, because I think the visual of this is fascinating, that it's jumping off of the video. Like, it's jumping away from us. And it kind of makes this cycle almost, because we then have this fish also jumping off, that I feel like you're ready to jump into everything, and you're excited about this, which is also why you probably are clicking in and trying to do this, because you're like, yeah, I want to go into this, and I want to do the things, I want to be part of this. But what does that look like? Now, hidden gift wise, I think you're going to find a bigger passion than you thought for this. I think you've been thinking about this very logically and like logistically, but I think you're going to find out that you actually are very passionate and very energized by this. This is possibly a new favorite thing to do, especially if you're looking into starting a hobby or something with this. I think you're looking at a really great opportunity. I also think that if this is a business thing, I think you're looking at some really good new flame for you. The Knight of Wands is he's like such a essence of the wands. The spark of the wands really comes with the knight, in my opinion. So I think you're probably going to find a new creative power that you didn't realize. Sorry, I have so many burps. A new creative power that you didn't realize you had. And that's going to be in the Knight of Wands. I'm very excited about that. I think that's really, really cool. I do want to look, before we get to our final last question here, kind of at some of what we've already done here. So we've looked at, especially because we talked very briefly about this Justice card, and I want to kind of looking at everything. What are we looking at, and how does this now kind of give us a light on everything? First off, there's no swords, which I find very interesting, because this feels like you've thought a lot about this, but there is something that you're not admitting to yourself. The swords often are dealing with like reason and logic and mental stuff. If something in this feels like it's gonna be hard to do, potentially having mental help on board is a good thing. There's nothing wrong with having a therapist or anything to talk things out, because things get tough. we have a couple of signs that things are going to be a little bit hard at times, and having a support system is going to be important. I think that Eight of Pentacles shows that a little bit more too, is that like you're going to need a group of people. You can't just do this solo. It takes a hive to do things. And if you're like, well, I'm only working on like a new crochet project or something, in that case, you might need to be looking up some new stitches, or be okay with the fact that you might have to go back to the basics on YouTube, or looking up tutorials again, or something you thought you were doing right is maybe not what's happening. Now, for bigger things, I think a therapist might be actually very important and helpful in this. Of course, with smaller things, like again, like a small like project or something, it may just be having a good friend to talk over with coffee. Use your judgment and seek help as necessary. I am not a replacement for mental health, financial help, any help at all in that sense of professional kind of care. Same with medical and whatnot. And so in the talk of finances, though, we're sitting kind of in a very interesting spot where it seems like base-wise, you've really thought about this. You've really, really thought about the financials and stuff in it. But there is like this higher, the creative emotional fulfillment that you haven't thought as much about, and I think you need to take some time and figure that out. I'm glad you got your finances in a row, always nice, but we do need to have like our emotional self, and are we willing to take on the leadership that this is going to have, especially with this Empress. I think that you're really going to be looking at, are you ready to lead a team? Are you ready to have the power? And that feels like a long-term thing, but like, are you okay with having to answer questions and take on all of the actions that happen with it? Yeah. If you're organizing a group or something, you have to be willing to answer questions from those who are wanting to come in, and those who you will be organizing it under, in the sense of like where you're going and whatnot. But also like those who want to attend will be asking you questions, or if you have a team who's going to be answering questions, like all of that stuff. Lots of pieces into this. That is the one thing with this spread. There's a lot of potential answers to it. So overall, it seems like you've got a really good foundation, and I'm really excited for you in that. But you haven't necessarily thought about what it's going to do emotionally for you, mentally for you, and potentially physically on you. I think this has been a very finance-focused thing, which is fair, especially if this is like a small business or something that you were trying to do. But I do think you want to like look forward and feel like, is this actually going to fulfill you? Is this going to properly pull you in and keep you interested? I know with our first question, or our second question of like, is this fulfilling the dream you truly desire? We were kind of on this like very stable thing. And I think that's like, it lacks the emotion that I want to see in that spot. It lacks the excitement almost that I wish. Like, I wish the Knight of Wands showed up over there in a sense, because I want you to be excited to do this. I want you to be interested in doing this, but also there is a logical side. And I think that's what you've been focusing on, is making sure that everything is very stable and solid and ready to just be a good foundation. That can be very, very important. So, after all of this, if you do not succeed in material terms, do you still want to go ahead? Say this doesn't work out. Do you still even want to do this? Now, this is going to be a question that I do not believe that fate is set in stone. I'm just going to say that right off the bat. You have the power to change and do whatever you want with your life. You can move forward and take this card as a goal of reminder, or you can use it as, I don't want to make a mistake to end up there. But I do want to kind of get a feeling of, if this doesn't succeed, do you even want to do it? Because that's an actual real life thing, is like, what if it doesn't work out? Are you willing to go ahead? Say this is going to flop really hard. Say this project's going to be a whole bunch of headaches. Because most are. Are you willing to still go ahead with this? It's this card. We have the Five of Cups. Okay. This is an interesting card to have picked. I don't think you are, in the sense that the confidence that I would like you to be in. This card is often about worry and like how things have fallen apart. And we often get stuck at this point. And I think if anything, you'll get stuck at this point of worry where you're like, but my things went wrong. This wasn't part of the plan, which it seems a little bit like you've got this like step-by-step plan that you've started. And now we're kind of fleshing out, and especially in the, like that emotional, like what does your heart feel instead of the logical mind feel, or especially the financial. That's really what you've been focusing on. And this Five of Cups is another emotion card, and potentially here in a relationship is going to fall apart, and you're going to kind of end up in this like stuck point where you just feel like you're gonna have something where you make the wrong choice. Things are gonna fall apart. The water's gonna come out. Things are not gonna go the way you thought they were, or they should have, or whatever the case. And this is, I think, gonna be a very big pivotal moment for you in the sense of what's your next step? How are you gonna handle this? What is this gonna be like? Because I think overall, if it doesn't succeed, you don't want to move forward. So why are you doing all of this? Because we need to figure out what's going on with this. I truly don't believe you have to sit in this Five of Cups energy. I think you can change this. I think you have the power to, and I think you really, truly can move from this energy and like redo it. You've done some great work, but you have to look at yourself and say that this is okay and that you're okay with this changing. You don't have to be stuck in a Five of Cups energy at all. And I know I'm speaking very hypothetically in a sense because like this is a potential. If this fails, you're gonna be very frustrated and you're not gonna move on with it. I don't think you should give up. I do think it's okay to mourn. And I'm not telling you to not, you should mourn. You should be able to grieve whatever that all looks like for you. Because I'm not telling you to shut that out. But I do think you need to, you need to realistically look at it and go, why, yes, this moment sucks. Now, how do I properly take care of myself and move forward? What does that look like? What does that combo look like? Does it look like you allowing yourself like a week off from working on everything and like taking the time? Does it mean if you're working on a project that you just put the project to the side for a little bit until you can come back to it? If it means your first event didn't go well, do you allow yourself to think about it, figure out what went wrong, and then come back to trying to do it again? What does that look like? Pile 1. I am very happy to have done this with you. I hope it was of interest. I'm curious if you paused and did journal entries and everything. Yeah, I'm curious what people's thoughts are on this and how beneficial this was, because I have to be so vague with this. Unfortunately, I think this is a good one to have like a private reading about a specific thing. But I think this was a really interesting one because it seems like you're very like on top of things, but like you're not on top of other parts, which is fascinating to me. So yeah, I'm very excited if you're willing to share what your thoughts and feelings are in the comments. Thank you again for letting me read for you, Pile 1. I very much enjoyed this, and the Landscapes Tarot was an excellent choice for you. I think it really depicted a lot of good foundational things for you, which made sense. So Have a magical day. Hello, pile 2. You've chosen the Antique Anatomy Tarot. I pulled out some crystals. I thought it would be fun. I usually use these crystals for chakra work. And there is some relation to the questions to chakras. I don't know a ton about them, so I'll probably point them out at a minimum kind of a thing, at all. So don't expect a lot of chakra talk from me. If you happen to notice stuff, feel free to comment on it below. But that's not really what I'm going to know. If you did not watch my intro talking about this deck, this does have skulls in it, and some pretty, some graphic imagery, so it's not guts and gore or anything, but if that's something that you are not interested in like the sense of skulls or accurately drawn hearts kind of a thing, you might want to pick a different pile. But for the most part, it's just kind of like fun, like skulls and roses, very kind of gothic and fun. I really like this deck. So I don't know how much the crystals will stay with us. They're kind of clunky and a little bit in the way for the cards, but we'll see. They might just poke around for a little bit with us. And I hope you have your journal ready. You've written your goal, dream, or ambition at the top, and you're ready to go. Feel free to pause at any point during this video and write down thoughts and feelings as we go. Things might pop out to you that don't pop out to me that are important to you. That's usually the case. I do find that sometimes, because it's a general reading, sometimes things are just like not as pinpointed, and sometimes I do get messages, but they're not for everybody, so there is that. We're going to start off with, right off the bat, are you determined to succeed at this, whatever the cost? That's going to be our red energy. It's like our base starting up for everything. Are you determined to do anything to make this succeed? Or are you only partly into this? And that top card is calling our name. So our first card we have here is the 9 of Rods. And now the rods in this deck are the wands. Let me get you focused. There we go. Now, I'm not fully familiar with this particular tool. It looks to have kind of like a scoop with the hole. I'm interested to know if somebody else immediately recognizes this. Sorry, lost my train of thought for a second. Typically with the 9 of Rods is that we are looking at kind of a defensive persistence that can happen with this. And particularly, I think it's very interesting to note that like these are all crossed and like building a barrier. So we're right off the bat, there's almost like a like you've built the grounding for this, and it seems like you are like, yeah, I've thought this through. I want to do this, and I want to be successful. I think there's also an interesting thing with the yellow that we have this very positive warmth that's coming through this. This deck really cares about what colors the flowers are, and so I think that's important to keep in mind as we go here, is that we are having a very positive idea in this particular card, and that you are very positive about this, and that you are trying to build this, like, I know I can do this. I have the desire. Especially with the rods that are with the fire element, we are dealing with a lot of spark here, I think. A huge amount of, like, I desire to do this. I desire to do it well. I want to do everything, and I think you're ready to like go and burn things down in a sense, in the like idea of like you're ready to cause a ruckus, you're ready to like go and cause something to happen and change. Fire brings a lot of change, and I think that you are ready to do that, and you have the desire and the skills, and I think you've mentally thought this through, which is really nice. Of course, it depends on how big and small your project is, of how determined you might be, especially if you're just doing like a small, like, I'm working on a knitting project. That's a different thing than like, hey, I want to start a business. Both of these things will have value within this spread, but you are going to have to like probably scale what I say a little bit more to whatever you're doing. I'll try to give examples of large and small as we go, just so you're aware. say this dream comes true now, with this orange energy, we're going to go into, is the fulfillment of this dream what you truly desire? Say all of this happens. Is this actually what you want? And some of you might be immediately like, well, obviously. And some of you might be like, well, maybe not. We have the 9 of coins. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay. The 9 is a lovely... We have 2 9s, which we're going to keep track of, but we like the 9s. We're seeing a lot of fruition. Things are happening. You might be actually looking at the next step in a larger project. Your dream, ambition, goal here might actually be part of a larger thing that you're like doing one step of, and you're like, is it time for that step? So far it's looking like a hard yes. You are at a point where things are like really coming together. Again, we have this nice yellow coloring. Lots of yellows. Lots of yellows are happening. We have lovely positivity. Growth. I think there's a lot more growth in this particular card of like the vines growing. So if the thing is to grow and get better at something, you're having a really good energy here that, yeah, this is going to help you. This is going to help you grow. Yeah, your fulfillment from this. Yeah, you're truly in the midst of what you desire to do. And it probably feels like a little bit of a silly question, which is an interesting thing that I started off with being like, well, sometimes, but like, no, you actually are like, no, I do know that this is what I want to do. This is really where I'm supposed to be. I feel like this is where I'm supposed to be. So now we're going to actually get into some more basic, realistic, I guess. A lot of the time with tarot, it's a lot about a personal basis and stuff. Like, we're going to look at the facts and figures. How, like, maybe, you know, for some of you, this might be finances stuff. So, always seek professional help, you know, somebody like an accountant or something. If you need that in this, I am not a replacement for medical, mental, bank, any of that. Talk to professionals. So if that ends up coming up here or in any of the cards, the facts and figures for success in this, do they add up? Does this all look good? Does this all look well? Oh, we have the 2 of coins. Okay. We have our second coins card, and the 2 of coins is all about balance. We're looking at this balance, and we are looking at a balance between, again, the yellow. So this growth, this positive, very nice, I want to say, like, it feels very, like, optimistic. It's a very warm, happy color. And purple lives on that cooler side. It's the, the word escapes me, but when they're complementary colors, where they're not on the same side of the color wheel. If you look at a color wheel, you'll know what I mean. With your prime colors versus your complementary colors. Yellow and purple are across from each other on the wheel. That's what I'm talking about. So with your yellow and purple, we're balancing stuff. So we're having that, like, it's not necessarily pessimism. I think this is much more of like a passion kind of color. And like, also, if one, you're on a tarot video, so I'm going to assume we have some desire for intuition and stuff, but like the realism of like what your gut is telling you versus what your head is telling you, this balance of both things. And it's very interesting that we have 2 hearts. So your heart's almost torn, I feel like, and you have to balance that. Interestingly, we're in the solar plexus, which is, kind of, I want to say it's like right, kind of under your ribcage, if I remember correctly, with the yellow chakra. This is like your personal power, taking action and stuff, and we're like really leaning into that yellow side, I think, with this whole thing. And I think we need to not forget that purple, which if you do chakra work, is your third eye, and that like intuitive and having an open mind. I think your answer might be somewhere where you don't expect it. And I think it's interesting that the purple side is like facing us in this scenario, and the yellow side is facing away. Now, I don't read with reversals. That's a personal choice. I don't find most decks actually benefit from it. They're made with the art in mind to be upright. This one might be one that would actually benefit from me having reversals in here. But I do think at the core of this, is that we have a balance. And I honestly think it would have shown this way anyway, because we've had so much yellow that we're now trying to balance out this purple with that yellow that we've been having. Sorry, my train of thought like ended there, and then I didn't know fully what I was doing afterwards. But yeah, the purple in general is often like a royal color. Historically, it's one of the harder dyes to get, and so a lot of fabric was more expensive with purple. So we're looking at like kind of this understanding between a little bit more easy path and a harder path in my mind is like we're balancing both. And I think with your facts and figures and all of the financials and stuff, there's a lot of stuff to balance there, and I don't know if you're fully allowing yourself the time, space, and all of the capacity that has to go in to fully understand what will make this work. You have to go into this knowing all of the elements are important to make this work. You know, especially on an individual level, that's what we're mainly focusing on, in my opinion, for like all of these spreads, is like we're kind of working on that self-growth, hence your journal. What we're really wanting to look at here is like your mental, your emotional, your physical, your spiritual. Look at all of those aspects. Get professional help if needed. Always seek it out. It's good. It's great. It's wonderful. It sometimes takes a little bit more work to find the right people to help you out on your journey, but it's worth it. And this balance within here is really important, that you don't forget about other aspects of your life. In this particular case, I think with the purple, you really could be looking at your spiritual religion kind of aspect and seeing that might fall to the wayside. And so how do you intentionally keep your practice going in the midst of all of this optimism about this new goal or this new dream that you have? How do you actually move forward in a conscious way of knowing that you are trying to do things still and keep your own personal balance? Yeah, you want to make sure that you are taking care of yourself. That's really important in this. So, we're going to move on. I think that Two of Pentacles is probably going to come up again. It feels like it's got a lot to say, and I've already talked a lot about it. Should you let this dream grow slowly or follow your heart and go all out? We have had those pentacles that feel a little slower, and I feel like with those nines that we've had, we're kind of like going to the cusp of everything, and we're like, yeah, this is good. This is going great. There's a card in the midst of all of this that feels like it's the card. That's the card. This the card? Nope, it's this card. Okay. And our card is, the Page of Rods. All right. So the Page of Rods. Page of Rods, and are we going to go for this? Yeah, your heart wants to go for it. Go for it. The Page of Rods is a wonderful card, and I say that about a lot of cards, I'm realizing. It's a wonderful card. This is just like the enthusiastic. Again, we have those beautiful yellow flowers. We also have this like lovely green on here that's like trying to like grow into everything, and like you're trying to get into and wiggle your way in through things. You're trying to say hello to stuff. You're trying to say, hey, I'm here. I exist. I'm doing things. Please come say hello. All of that. You're wanting things, and you're like excited to do this. Like this is like, again, we're kind of going back to that spark, which the page is like an excited child who's like, let's go do the thing. I'm so excited. I want to go and learn this new thing. We're going to paint. I'm so excited. Like that vibe is what we're like, the screaming child of excitement here. And so yes, follow your heart. Go for it right now. This is like your time. I just don't want you to lose sight of your purple. I don't want you to lose sight of things. I do want to look for another aspect in this is, do you have the confidence, knowledge, and experience to pursue your dream? This can be a little bit more of that Two of Pentacles vibe of like the logistics and stuff. Do you have everything you need to do in order to do this do you have everything? I thought of a Drag Race thing of the charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent. You have all of the aspects that will make you able to pursue this dream fully. We are looking at the Four of Pentacles. We got lots of pentacles, but we do have a new color. We have blue. It's looking like you have done your research. You've taken your time. You've spent your energy in the right places, and you are like ready to take the next step. The Four of Pentacles is pretty stable. You're on solid ground. The blue can deal with some sadness, though. So there might be something here that you need to, which is interesting that we got that in the blue. Interesting. Hold on, now I want to sit and think about this because we have blue in blue. Like very synergetic, it feels. And this is the throat chakra if you were a chakra worker. So we're talking about you, which makes sense because you have the confidence, knowledge, and experience, which would mean like, can you share this? Can you teach your team? Can you make this work? And while I think there's a very secure thing here, I think that there is a hesitancy that you have, I think this is like an imposter syndrome thing where you feel like you don't actually have what it takes to do this. But you do, and you can do this. So take this blue as more of a calming aspect rather than a point of worry. We're not worrying here. We are excitedly moving forward. We're excitedly going to the next step. I think that's important with this, is that you need to realize that yes, you've done it, you can do it, and you can keep doing it. And especially if you're like, if this is something where you came into this and you were like, my dream, goal, or ambition, and I've started it already, and I'm trying to figure out how that keeps moving forward. This is your sign that like you're doing it right. You are adding something to the equation. You are adding a voice. You are adding something that matters, and like you need to keep going. I think this is also partially, again, I knew this was going to happen. The Two of Pentacles is calling out again. We're having to balance this like worry, imposter syndrome, and am I actually doing anything of worth with all of this excitement you have? You have so much excitement, and then this like comes in and like defeats a lot of it and pokes a hole. And it's like, again, you're excited. You want to do this. Keep listening to that. Just be at peace with the fact that sometimes you'll feel a little lost. It's okay. I want this to be like a calming blue for you. I wish I had a calmer blue on here, but I don't. I needed it to be reading on camera. But like a calmer blue, a more pastel blue, I feel like would be really, really nice in this scenario. Or like some ocean wave sounds. Ooh, ocean wave sounds. Yeah. Ooh. This is the throat chakra, that if you do some meditations with like ohms or chants or anything, that might be very beneficial for you to like work in this area. Because you do have something to say. You do have something to add to the world. You can speak your truth. You can say what you're at. You can educate everybody. You have the knowledge. You can do the things. So go out and do it. We're going to go into the purple chakra, or the purple aura chakra, I guess, as well, since it's ended up being a little bit more about chakra than I expected. And this is about what hidden resources and gifts will emerge if you go ahead. If you do chakra work, you'll know this is the third eye. And that's, what's not seen. What isn't being seen immediately off the bat. And I think it's like underlying energy here that we're going to have some hidden resources and gifts that we're getting. Okay, we have the Eight of Coins. We had a lot of eights. We're going to have to, a lot of pentacles. We're going to be discussing the cycle of the pentacles, I think, here too soon. We have the Eight of Pentacles. This is I think, yeah, unsurprisingly, I think we have some of that education aspect that's come back in. Talking and educating other people about what you know. This is not, interestingly, this, as for as many pentacles as we have here, and you got a lot, you got 4 out of the 6. And the other 2 are rods, and we're going to talk about your absence of swords and, or the blades and, potions. Elixirs? I think it's elixirs in this deck. Lack of blades and elixirs in this, reading will be interesting, and I'm curious about your last card. But you are somebody who knows things. I also don't want you to forget that other people know things as well. And so I think, there is that aspect of don't forget that other people can help teach you, but like, you are going to be somebody who can be very engaging. It seems like almost like we're kind of at a social media thing is kind of a big part of this. And like, how do you add, it's that excitement that we have, that you've been like doing a lot of exciting. I'm enthralled. I'm interested in this. I'm really excited about this. And then making sure you like put it together with also this like emotional and important, like, this important like emotional and spiritual side that you have. I do want to quick address the fact that we don't have elixirs or blades here. There does seem to be a certain amount of like mental and emotional pushing away out of this. Like, you don't want to discuss it, and that's why it's not showing up. I'm not somebody who can say or not say, but potentially mental help would be good. Medical help might be good. Whatever that might be. Also, don't forget the people who are in your life who can help you. Sometimes the help comes in the odd spots or ways that you didn't expect it to. The elixirs sometimes deal with relationships, and the fact that we have quite literally nobody showing up here. We haven't even had, besides like the page of wands or page of rods here, there's been nothing figure-wise that makes sense to me that like ends up being like, hey, these people are helping you. This feels like a very solo project. Like, you're really on your own here. I don't love that for you. I'm going to be very honest. I think you need to have somebody in your corner. And that can just be like, if you're doing something small, like just like a TikTok, you're decided to make a new Instagram or something, and you're just like, I just want to make it for fun and do the thing I like to do on it. Sometimes that's just telling like a friend and being like, having your friend hype you up on your like little things every now and then, and just be like, hey, we love you, or whatever. Like, just the little like, you know, a nice comment of, oh, that looks so nice, or whatever, is really cool. And I love that. And it's good to have somebody in your corner hyping you up, I think. And if this is a bigger thing, in the sense of like potentially looking at investing or business stuff, of course, always look at, talk to an accountant or somebody who knows money far better than I do. But it does look like we're having some really good financial success in this. There's a lot of great pentacles here happening. We got the 8 and 9, both are coming to the end of the cycle of the pentacles. We do have a 2 and a 4, which is towards the beginning, but it seems like this is a bit more of a, especially with the 9 of pentacles in that spot, the slot 2 there. I think that we're dealing with a lot more of like a finality of like, things are starting like financially to become in alignment, that you're able to make bigger decisions now, that you can actually like act on particular things. Again, I don't know what that is. Don't want to be in, I'm not your advisor for that. Talk to somebody who is. So moving forward, I think you're in like really good spots, really good places to be. I just want you to be taking care of yourself emotionally and mentally. I think reaching out to friends would actually be really good. It seems like there's been some kind of like distance that's happened. Sit down, Zoom call, coffee, Discord, whatever. Sit down and text, call each other. I don't know. FaceTime, man. Like, connect with people again. You've been very focused on this. Great, cool. I love that for you. I'm glad you are here to watch this video and stuff. But, like, you also do need to, like, connect with people again and talk to them about what's going on. That's important. Now we're going to have one last hard-hitting question. If you do not succeed in material terms, do you still want to go ahead? So if this doesn't financially work out, if this doesn't profit, or if this doesn't, like, no one shows up to your events, nobody likes the video, do you still want to go ahead with this? Do you still want to do this? Feels like it's... Hold on. We're going to shuffle a little bit more. It's not really... It's this card. Okay. Oh, we have the Hierophant. Okay. Okay. All right. You want to mentor so bad. This is... Okay. Yeah. No, the Hierophant is in my... I always tend to read the Hierophant as this is you either needing to seek out mentors or desiring to be a mentor. It's one or the other typically. Though this actually might be a cause to actually look at both sides of this. I think this is you have a call to mentor people, to be in charge of something. So in order, all of this energy and excitement you have to do like education or involving people or like taking on something is really good. And it is something you should be looking at and going towards and going into that calling. I think that you are somebody who can really benefit also from asking others. We're back to that, reaching out to friends. And in this particular case, I actually want you to reach out to somebody who knows more than you and can advise you on the stuff you're looking at. That's the big thing with this, is that, like, look at somebody who's already doing the thing you're doing or close to and tangent of, and reach out. See if they're willing to, like, tell you what they do, how they do it, if any advice or anything. I think that's important here, is that you need to reach out to others about what is recommended, and maybe and to also be a good mentor and nice to those who ask you if you have success in this. I don't believe your fate is set in stone. I believe that you can change it at any time. So while we have really good cards that are very positive, that doesn't mean that you don't keep working hard, you don't keep putting in the hours and grinding at it, kind of a deal. You still have to do the work. You still have to actually post the stuff. You still have to make the payments. You still have to do all this stuff. So at any point you could drop the ball and then it can all fall away, basically. And hopefully, though, if you keep on doing everything, and maybe this is, giving you a fire to keep going harder. I hope it does. You have those beautiful rods that I think your personality is very much a fire type that wants to keep going. I'm hoping that this is like, yeah, I'm gonna now kick butt and do great things. And with that, I am hoping that you do not forget where you came from, and that, you're willing to help others and help them also rise, and, make room in the field for everybody to sit and join you up there. Thank you so much, Pile 2, for letting me read for you. I know there's so many dreams, ambitions, and goals that this could be about, so I'd love to hear how things may have translated to your particular goal, or if certain things you were like, nope, that's the thing that, like, stood out to me in my particular dream that I want to go for. I'd love to hear about that in the comments if you are willing to share. And thank you so much again for letting me read for you. Please stay magical, and you are always more than welcome to, like, also privately message me if you think certain things were interesting. I have an Instagram, and Ko-Fi, I think, allows messaging as well if you are interested. So thank you again. Stay magical, everyone. Hello, Pile 3. I'm very excited to join you on this. Hopefully you have your journal and you've written down your prompt and you're ready to go. You got your goal, dream, or ambition in mind. Just so you're aware, we might touch on finances, mental and medical health and such like that. Please, seek professionals. I'm just somebody who reads cardstock. I'm not a professional or good at advice in any sort of way in that sense. So you should always look at seeking professional help in all of that aspects. So we're kind of looking more at, like, what are you doing, but there is going to be some touching on some of that. We are going to get started with some hard-hitting questions, or a hard-hitting question, I suppose, right off the bat. And that's just, are you determined to just succeed at whatever the cost? And let's see, where is this card that wants to chat with us? Nope, not there. Well, this might be a minute. I have some crystals out. I pulled these out. I usually use them for chakra stuff, but I do think that this spread has some chakra stuff. We won't touch on it a ton unless it makes sense for what we're doing, but I thought it was fun to have some crystals out. I think this is our card, but I don't think it's the top one. Yeah, it's the second one. It's the second one. Okay. So, are you determined to succeed no matter the cost? Ooh, and we have the Six of Swords. Interesting. I was just listening to somebody talk about this card earlier today, and it was like you're on this change, and you're determined to go, and you're willing to even just bring all of your stuff with you. You're gonna do it. I think you are incredibly determined to succeed. You're willing to bring a bunch of swords that you might not necessarily need, and like all of this potentially mental baggage that can come with this particular project, you're willing to take on and do it. You're willing to you're willing to partake. You're willing to actively do it, which is kind of crazy in a sense. Like I'm somewhat shocked that you're gonna also bring all that stuff with. There might be some stuff where you actually could like let go, lighten your load, and make this easier, which may be important to look at as we go here. So say you succeed, you get your journey, you make it to the other side, you do all the things, everything works out, all of this stuff makes it. I think this is a very interesting picture, because like this family gets to the other side and they get to start their new life. So you start your new life in a sense. Is this actually what you truly desire? Are you going to find out this is actually what you wanted, or what you truly meant for it to be? Let's see. This deck's not particularly loud today, so I'm having an interesting time hearing which cards it wants. No, it's somewhere over here. Yeah. Yep, okay. The fulfillment of this dream, and what if it's what you truly desire, and its judgment. I would be double checking that this is what you want. I'm curious what other cards we end up with, but I would be double checking and curious if this is really truly what you want. Sometimes you're also going to get judgment. Often sometimes can be like, aha, I know what's happening. I clarify, like, from the heavens I hear the sound kind of idea. Like you know it's the thing. You know what's up. You understand. It's pivotal. You get it. It's time. And I think while we're at like the end of the major arcana cycle here and being like, oh, okay, yep, clarification starting to happen, I think it's also a good time to like double check that everything is where it should be. That you need to kind of go through, and while you're having this moment of like, yep, this is all good, double check that everything's ready to go for your finale moment. For that moment of like, yep, this is what's going to happen. And I think what you truly desire is maybe even just like a slight shift in perspective. It might not be that this isn't what you desire, and that this is like actually going to fulfill, like, you know, you're going to feel fulfilled. But I think like a shift in perspective might be actually what we need to like look at here and consider. We're going to get a little bit more factual now. Is that, do the facts and figures line up? Does the finances line up? Does all of the facts and figures, finances, all that jazz, does that all equal success? Does all of it for you to be successful line up? Yeah, this deck is very quiet today. Yeah, it's this card. Yeah, okay. Oh, we have the World! Okay. Well, alright then. I feel like this is an interesting thing that we have judgment and then the world. They come straight into the cycle. I'm curious if you're willing to share what did you put down? Because we have a very clear, like, yep, you're ready to determine to fill this out to the end. But it feels like we're coming in at something half or like almost done. It feels like you're putting the finishing touches on something. Judgment and the world are not cards of starting out something. They're cards of finishing. They're cards that are at the end of the major arcana, and they are ones that are interested in kind of like, okay, we did the thing, and now let's move on. We no longer want to continue what we're doing. We're closing the book. Like, the world is like the final page of the book is done. We're not even starting a new chapter. We're starting a whole new book. We're going to be looking back at the Fool again at the beginning of the cycle and like doing these new beginnings and having no knowledge about stuff. And is it that you are struggling to get to that point? Because it feels like you know what's going on and you've gotten all the facts and figures. You know this is going to work. So what is happening here that we are at a point where you're not actually doing... Interesting. I think I might need more cards, but I'm very interested to know what's happening, because this is so... Yeah, you're... Okay, I need more cards. I need to stop and get more cards. We're going to look at the pacing of chasing this dream. We're having success. We are kind of at the finale of, if nothing else, if you're about to launch or decide to do something, or if you've been thinking about this project long enough that you've basically got all the stuff in place, and you're willing to like travel, like fully go on this new path to make this thing work. Like, you are fully committed to this, like, so hard. So are you ready to, like, is this going to be like a slow thing? Your dream is going to take a while, or are you ready to like chase your heart and like just go all out for it? This one, the Ace of Cups. Oh, this is a high emotion card. The cups are faster. I think you need to go for it with your heart and just go all out for it, which I'm not particularly surprised by. Clearly you want to do this, so do it. This is very clear messaging. I wish you were sitting in front of me, and I know I can't have all of you sitting in front of me, but I wish you were sitting in front of me, because this is definitely one that I would like to have questions answered. Because I feel like there's more I can tell you here, but like I need more details almost, like, of what's actually happening. Interestingly, that you are emotionally ready, which is nice. So like you are, like, you've really thought about a lot of aspects in this, which was awesome. We haven't seen the Pentacles show up, which is usually about finances, and it could be that this is not a financial thing. This is more of a, I've been trying to plan an event. I've been trying to, do this thing where we're all going to get together. It could be that you're just starting a new project. Maybe you've been looking at a new knitting pattern for a while that you want to do, or a new sewing pattern or something, and you've really thought about it for a long time, and now you're like, yeah, I'm going to do this. Or maybe you've already bought the supplies and everything. It seems that, like, with Judgment in the world, that you already have the supplies to do this thing, and now you can just do it. It's very interesting. I think I'm curious now that we're going to move into the blue area of, do you have the confidence, knowledge, and experience to pursue your dream? I think I'll be shocked if you don't, but let's see. It's this. There's just some energy. Yeah, I think there's just some energy sitting there. Okay, we're going to shuffle somewhere. Do you have the confidence, knowledge, and experience to pursue your dreams? And I'm wondering if you need to, like, because we're looking at this new thing and we're seeing that Ace of Cups, very interesting storytelling, by the way, of, like, just straight into stuff, because we're closing the chapter of the book of the one thing, and then, like, starting in that Ace of Cups almost. Yeah, I'm interested to see how this all ends up. Because, yeah, I'm very interested. Okay. just like some strong energy in this deck, but it doesn't want to tell me cards specifically that it wants. Okay. Man, it's so indecisive. Keeps fluctuating its energy. Okay, we're going with this card. Oh, the Ten of Swords. I think there's a lot of self-doubt. I think you have a lot of self-doubt and that you're not fully sure that you can do this. I think you're scared of the mental aspect of what's coming, and I think this is also why you're like, so you're dragging your burdens with you. You're bringing all of this stuff with you, and now you potentially stabbing yourself in the back with that. I don't love that for you. I'm gonna be real. I don't think you deserve that, by the way. I don't think you deserve to feel like you're getting stabbed in the back or that things are going wrong. And you have a lot of things going for you. And I think this is potentially a mental thing of like, hey, this is rough. I'm having a hard time. And the term imposter syndrome comes up, but I don't feel like that's quite the term we want in this particular scenario. I think it's more of... what is it more of? Just feeling like certain past things are going to come back and you're stuck being like feeling smaller than the rest. I think can be very hard to deal with and rough to like face. You are not less than, and you do have, from what I can tell, you have a right to be where you are. I think it just can be very painful to have this. I would also, if you were pursuing this with somebody, I would be careful about backstabbing. And I don't mean this in a way of like, if you set your, like, I don't want you to like then set up for a backstabbing because they're going to kind of be like looking for the signs. But if there's like quiet ways of like just being like, okay, how do I set myself up for success? How do I keep myself even in this exchange and don't get walked all over, I think is really where this is gonna, where this is calling, is like, stand your ground, don't let yourself get walked on, you don't have to take that. You really don't. I know my lighting is harsh and you're getting some bad shadows, I'm sorry. Alright, so, what we're gonna go into is what the hidden resources and gifts will emerge if you go ahead with this, if you keep pursuing this. Because it does feel like you're kind of in the midst of a cycle. And I feel like it's... yeah, it's that card. Oh, we finally have one that talks. Nope, it's this card. Alright, well, it was deciding and then it didn't. Oh, we have the Knight of Wands! Excellent. Love the Knight of Wands. And now our Knight of Wands here is kind of jumping into action into those swords, which is a little frustrating in this. But the Knight of Wands is a really nice card because I think it's actually going to be perking you up, and I think it's actually going to take over a little bit of that energy that we have with our Ten of Swords. Because I think what's happened here is that you're very stuck in a mental thing, and if you get past this mental burden of these swords, you know, kind of coming at you, and you feel like you're being just stabbed and taken apart, I think you're really actually going to find out that you actually really love this, and you're very excited about it, and you're very passionate about it. We haven't had any of these wands pop up at all. We've had two swords. Lots of mental stuff is happening with you. Some excellent major arcana cards that I think are very beneficial and that I think you need to be like analyzing. Start on some Ace of Cups work, which it feels very much in the emotional realm, and I don't think it's the relationship realm. Mainly because I felt some strong relationship stuff coming off of this card, which is not usual of the swords. But this Knight of Wands is going to be your spark. You're going to find that The Knight of Wands is always like the spark to me of the fire that is Wands. Wands is the fire element, and it's so much just like, boom, we're off and running. This is like, he wants to get into the action. He wants to take over things. He's ready to go and fight and do all the stuff. He wants to be part of that. He wants to like have a say in everything. And I think when you kind of get past this mental block, you're going to find out that you are actually very excited and passionate about stuff. You're ready for the next step, and you're ready for that adventure. And I think that's actually why we're kind of stuck in this judgment. The world is that you're stuck in this end of the book. You're stuck on this old thing, even though you're ready to move on. You're ready to do all this stuff. You're ready to do everything, and you're ready to start this new adventure. Like, you have like all of this wonderful stuff going for you, and you're like ready to go, and your heart's ready. Everything is ready. You might need to just do it solo. I think that scares you, and that's why you're like, ooh. But this might be a thing where you need to figure out you can do it. This is you ready to ride off and do the thing and be so excited to be a part of this and setting fire and setting that fire around and stuff. Especially that combo with the swords of the air. Wind and fire is a very deadly combo in a very destructive way, and like a wonderful way, because like in order for construction you have to have, or in order for creativity there also has to be some destruction. So construction and deconstruction kind of being the opposites there. You still have to have the balance of stuff. We have to remember that like I always think of like when I'm making craft projects like a knitting or crocheting or sewing or something. Every time I have to frog or seam rip or something, I have to remember that I am making so much stuff that sometimes I have to balance it out by deconstructing stuff. It's gotta keep the balance in the world. So that can be very important in this to remember. Now, we're gonna probably touch on something that might be kind of rough to think about, but I think for you in particular, this question is going to be very important. If you do not succeed in material terms, do you still want to go ahead? Now, this is one you might pause and like think about for a minute. You're more than welcome to. Again, this is a general reading, so it's not going to apply to every single one of you in this specific way, but I do think that question is important for you guys to seriously think about after looking at all of this. I want all of you to think and consider, if this doesn't work out in the material way that you want, is it still okay to go ahead and do this? And for some of you, it's going to have bigger consequences than others, which is why this isn't perfect for everybody. This is a great spread for a private reading. Not as good for a general reading, but I love the aesthetic of this. So, what does that look like? And we're looking at a general, for most people, kind of vibe. And it's this top card. And it's the Queen of Cups. I love that. Okay, so we didn't get any Pentacle cards. Financially, and I just want to quick touch on that we have no Pentacle cards. Usually I'm kind of concerned about the finances of this, because I think you will find that while the world is like very positive on your like facts and figures of this endeavor, it's also like really concerning to me that we didn't see any of the like earthly basis that I am used to seeing for this kind of a discussion. This is a very mental discussion, and I think we need to kind of have a grounding moment of like, hey, if I don't want you to necessarily push your emotions and mental state aside, but I think there needs to be space for that. We need to figure out, how do we objectively look at and hold space for both thoughts of like, hey, this is mentally struggling, but like I also financially need to look at how things are going. I think that's really important in this, is that we haven't had a ton of time or a ton of thoughts about earthly things. Like finances and resources, and can you actually afford to buy XYZ kind of a thing, and do you have the time? Do you have the actual time to do stuff? Now, on to if you still want to move ahead with everything. Emotionally, I think you're really ready to, have this outlet, to have this thing work out. Now, you're somebody who knows their own. You've transformed this cup into this beautiful piece. It's so well decorated and it's beautiful. It's just this lovely hand piece. And I like the idea that I think it feels like you've customized it to yourself. And you've made a path for yourself. You've made this distance for yourself and you've come into your power. You will learn a lot along the way, no matter what. And if you're willing to take that journey, you're going to come back very, very strong. Like, so much stronger than you originally thought. You're hoping to kind of, I think you got excited about the idea of, like, hitting that knight excitement. But you're really going to have the queen power. And especially with the Queen of Cups, it's interesting because you got the Knight of Wands, which I think is, like, the true ruler of the wands. Really is the essence of the wands. The Queen of Cups is, like, the essence of the cups to me. I feel like the king is almost, like, too emotional sometimes. And the queen has such a compassion to her and such an understanding. And she's so calm and, like, intuitive and really knows what's going on. And I think you're going to, like, learn a lot about yourself and your gut and your, like, knowing your feelings and trusting yourself to have to believe yourself, to trust yourself that, yes, the things you think are happening, and the worries you have are not things you have to sit and worry about forever, kind of a deal. You don't have to sit and be consistently worried about this. I want you to go. It feels like no matter what, even if this fails, this is going to be a successful in some way for you. That you are still going to have a certain amount of success, though it might take time to, like, look back and be like, oh, okay, that was good. This also feels very quick. Like, things are happening for you. Whatever this goal is, you need to do it. You need to do it quickly, and you need to jump in and be able to, like, hit the ground running. This isn't something to take time on necessarily. Certain things obviously take time and research and all that jazz, but, like, I don't want you to delay that research and time. I want you to be able to, like, sit down, journal all your stuff, and then go, oh, you know what? Awesome. I know what I'm doing. Let's go. Kind of a deal. That's what I'm really hoping for you guys. Pile 3, I'm happy that we got to share this. I think this is one that I had to try and be very, very vague. I think it's one of those that I would love to have had you sit here and be like, hey, I want to know a little bit more, because I think that we could have really dived into specifics, but of course this is a general reading, and so we're just kind of like, overall, what are we looking at? So the success you're in, and it's time to start a new chapter, I think, or start a new book, really is okay, and that you need to be willing to take that leap of faith is really important in this. Thank you so much for letting me read for you, Pile 3. I wish you the best of luck in your new adventures. I'm excited to see that Knight of Wands pop out for you and have it spark you and let you go and have you running ahead. I think that's going to be wonderful. Stay magical, and I hope for the best. I do want to add one caveat here, Pile 3. I don't believe that fate is set in stone. All of this can change. You can do whatever, and that you have the power to change things or adjust things as necessary. So this isn't set in stone. You can still kind of sit at the end of this book for longer. I don't think you should, but you can. You know, you can do whatever you want, but I just want you to be aware that you have power to change, and I want you to find that power. All right, for real this time. Have a magical day. Thank you for letting me read for you. Hello, Pile 4. You've chosen the Wisdom of the Owls. My lighting is a little weird. I'm filming this pile last, so the lighting's all funky because I lost my natural lighting. I did bring out some crystals today. These are usually used for my chakra work when I actually remember to do it. And so I am excited to bring them out. We might touch on the chakra stuff a little bit, but we'll see. I'm not fully sure. And with the wisdom of the owls, I'm really excited to get into this. I think this is gonna, one, look really pretty with these cards. So we'll see what happens. I'm really excited to be doing this reading for you guys. And we're gonna, hopefully you have your journals. You've written at the top what your goal, dream, or ambition is. Because we are going to get into, right off the bat, how determined are you to succeed? Is, like, are you willing to succeed at whatever the cost is really what we're going to be looking at. Are you willing to do whatever it takes? I'm feeling for the card right now. Sorry. Yeah, I want to know if you're willing to succeed, whatever it takes. Yeah, this. This card. A top card. Okay. Are you willing to succeed whatever the cost? Ooh, Queen of Swords. Interesting. I mean, I think your gut immediately is like, yeah, I'm definitely willing to do this at whatever the cost. But I really want you to think about this, like, when push comes to shove, are you actually determined to do this? Because while I think you're somebody who has really good, quick mental understanding, and like you're quick thinker, you're clear thinker, mainly quick thinker, I think is really what I'm trying to say. And I think you can see through stuff. I want you to be able to not like forget all aspects of yourself in this. We have a lot of butterflies on this card, and this like idea of like metamorphosis or transformation, I think, needs to be thought about as well in this. We'll see what the other... Oh, excuse me. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for bumping you. We'll see what the other cards, if they end up kind of giving us a little bit more. But I think this idea of metamorphosis and transformation might be something that we might be revisiting. Because... Oh. Are you willing to have this if it changes you? Are you okay with being changed by this experience? Well, if you haven't pulled out a journal, you better now, because that's journal prompt number 1. Are you willing to start? So yeah, we're going to dig deep. I am going to probably giggle a little bit. I know this is very serious, but there is something about going almost too serious when I'm reading cardstock that it just feels a little silly, and it's like, nope, that's what we're here for. And I'm trying to remember that. I'm just like coming up for air because I don't want to get lost in just like a endless well of seriousness is the one thing. But to be back to serious, I guess, anyways. If you fulfill this dream, is this actually what you truly desire? So say we have success in whatever sense that means for this dream, ambition, whatever it is. This card is really talking to me as this top point. Is this actually what you desire? Okay, it's actually the second. Well, we have the 8 of Wands. Interesting. I don't know if it actually is. Now, the 8 of Wands is sometimes this card of like, in this particular art, it feels like he's being attacked, like they're being thrown like spears, and this owl is running, well, not running, flying away, has caught one, it looks like, and is potentially leading, there is a potential of like leading all the others, but this really does feel like it's an attackment, or you feel alone, and you're feeling kind of not alone, but there is isolation in this, of like you're stuck alone on this journey. And so these are glossy cards, I'm just realizing. You're stuck alone on this journey, and you're trying to get from one place to the other, and you're trying to carry all this stuff, and you kind of can't. You're being somewhat attacked, it feels like, but is this what you truly desire? Are you okay? Boy, we're gonna really hard hitting with this one, I think. Are you okay with everything that is going on to potentially strike you down, and you have to pick yourself back up? This isn't going to be an easy journey. It's not going to be... it's not going to be all sunshine and roses. It's going to have some hard steps in it. And are you actually ready for that? And I think we go back to that Queen of Swords in that transformation. You're not going to be the same person you were when you started this. You're not going to have the same thing. And if that's scary, how do you hold on to certain values that you have? And if that's, if you're thinking that might be actually a really good growth, which sometimes it's hard to tell, what does that look like for you? We are going to go a little bit more factual now. How do, like, the facts and figures actually look for success for you? Do they actually add up? Or, is this actually something that you can and should be pursuing? Like, if we really look at this, it's this one. Oh, we have death. Now, some people, if you don't know tarot, don't panic. Death is not saying your end is coming. I actually really love death, as it's one of my favorite cards. Do the facts and everything line up? I think in the sense is, I think we're coming back to that. Like, what has to end in order for this to continue? I think it does. I actually think that success does make sense for you, but, like, something has to give in order for you to get. And I think this, again, we're going back to that transformation, that change, that traveling, that going from point A to point B kind of a thing. What does that look like? What does that mean? What's changing for you? What has to change for you? What has to, be different? And we're going to be, in that death card to me really is like something has to end. Something has to be given up to pursue forward. And that can be hard. I think this is going to be a hard thing to pursue and do. And I'm curious about the next question, because we're going to now look at, like, should you let this continue growing slowly, or should we go at it with, our heart and just go for it? I'm curious because for some people, like I said, death is one of my favorite cards to get, because it means, like, I get to end something I get to grow in a different area, and that means something else has to die. And sometimes that can be really nice to, like, be like, oh, the thing that I've been wanting to end, or the thing that, like, has felt like it's been coming to an end, finally gets to end. Sometimes we hold on to it a little longer than we mean to. Happens. But this is about transformation and change for you. This is probably a large next step in what you're trying to do and achieve, which is really important. So are we chasing these dreams with speed, or are we chasing these dreams slowly? And your card feels like it's in here. It's one of these two. It's this one. Oh, it's Judgment. Judgment. Oh, Judgment. First off, with Judgment, Judgment is coming at the end of the major arcana cycle. So with Judgment, you're kind of getting ready to finish up stuff. And again, I think this ties very well with Death. I think we're getting at the ending of potentially a chapter, potentially a whole book. And you need to double check that all of your stuff is ready to go and to be able to fulfill this. The speed of which I think Judgment is not neither here nor there necessarily. I think between the swords and the wands, I think you're looking at a bit faster of a speed. We'll see if the other cards kind of give us a little bit more information about the speed of this. But I do think that this is a good time to actually, like, sit and check with yourself of, like, what all needs to be double checked beforehand. And then we'll kind of reach an aha, oh, this is the moment, which is going to be really, really nice for you, I think. And it's going to end up being in a really good spot, which I'm excited. This green one, if you're doing by chakras, is your heart chakra. And there's some beautiful inner work that can happen. And I like that Judgment came at the heart chakra, because I do think it's a very beautiful card to have had come in there. And also the beautiful green owl, I think, is very fitting, and just aesthetically, which is fine. But I think there's some, like, double check your heart what does your heart want in this moment? What is actually going on? We have a lot of cards that say you're kind of not sure. You're unsure of what's happening, what you're doing, and potentially having a hard time letting go. And so what are you actually... Double check all that stuff. Like, make sure you're ready to do it, because you do need to do it. And then I think you're going to be like, once you do it and then you let go, I think you're going to have this relief and be like, oh, okay, this is good. I'm happy. And I think that's what's going to be really nice. And then I think you are actually going to be able to hit the ground running and be like, yeah, we're off and doing things, which is going to be super fun and really nice. We're going to look in now. Do you have the confidence, knowledge, and experience to pursue your dreams? Feels like this card wants to chat with us. Yes. Yeah. We have the King of Pentacles. Okay, I love a Pentacles card showing up. This is a great card to have. I like a king showing up, I should say. The kings are very authoritative. They know their element, in a sense. I especially love the King of Pentacles, because I do think the King of Pentacles really does rule the Pentacles aspect in its element, I believe. I'm trying to say. I really like that he's very disciplined. He's very grounded. He's aware of what's going on in a sense of like finances and materials and knowing what's happening, like the trade and stuff. I think like a very earthly basis. I don't think he's as aware people wise though. I think there might be some people shortage in your and we'll see what else we get, but I haven't seen a cup card yet, and I'm a little like, how are your people relationships? How is the emotional side of everything? Is it something you push out? Is it something you're not actually listening to all the time? And it's suggesting that you would potentially in the purple or our last white space, we might find that there is some other stuff that's going on emotionally, but really it seems like you're pushing them away and you're not really trying to let that be part of this. And I think that's actually why we're having a lot of difficulty with all of these parts and how you're not allowing yourself to change and transform and become who you need to be. And part of death and endings is that you need to grieve, and that has a very emotional base to it. You need to grieve and feel the loss. Things end, and that's okay. I'm happy that you feel confident to pursue this dream and that you have all of the base things to accurately do this. My concern, though, is that you are not actually ready to pursue this in the sense of an emotional, like you don't have the people, or you are not willing to accept the people, or whatever it may be. If this is going to become a solo project, there's a lot of signs of solo in here, which I'm not loving. It feels like you're trying to do this solo, but you're not supposed to do it solo. Granted, there are some things, like if you're just starting a crochet project or something that you might be like, yeah, I can do this totally on my own. It's actually fine. But maybe there's a new stitch in there that you need to learn, and now you need to look to YouTube to find out how to do it, or look up a blog or something, and how do you work this? If you're trying to set up a social gathering of some sort, maybe this is like, you don't take this on alone, you actually ask somebody else for input before you go into it and, start this event, and then find out, some certain things that would have been very clear to somebody else is not clear to you, or for whatever reason. You could have, allowed those things to be, allowed those things to have their space within it. I think it's very interesting with these two cards, and I'm just realizing that you are above, because I feel like you are the larger owls in these scenarios, is that you're above others. And then we have the King of Pentacles, and I think this form of leadership is coming in, and that people skills, that lack of people skills that I'm very worried about, needs to start coming in. You need to have the people skills in order to do all this stuff. Now, here's the thing. We're going to go into the purple, which is finding your hidden resources, gifts, what will emerge if you keep going with this project. If you do all of the stuff, if you allow yourself to move forward in whatever respect that means, whether you end stuff or don't end stuff. And it's this card. It's the Fool. I love that. Okay. We have this wonderful... You are ending a whole book, which is why you're resistant. You don't want to actually go into this next chapter, I think, or this next book. It's not a chapter. It's a whole new book. And I think your resistance makes sense because this is what you're familiar with. You know where you're at. This is a whole new leap. And I think you're going to be really surprised at what you can do with nothing. What you can do when you start off with very little. And how much you actually have connections-wise and how much you have for other people helping you and pursuing, and you have a ton of skills. You have such a mastery of so many things, and you're good at stuff. Like, it shows that you're good at stuff and that you know what you're doing. And so I think you're going to be very excited to find out when you get plunged into something brand new, that doesn't scare you like you think it's going to. It's actually going to be very good for you, and you're actually going to find something about that you're really going to like, which is exciting. I think that's exciting, at least. I don't know if everybody finds that as exciting as I do, but I think it's very exciting. I do want to, we have all of the elements, but only one of each, and you did get court cards pretty heavily. This feels like a very monumental, big, important thing. I don't think you chose this, if you chose this lightly, I don't think you were actually ready for this particular reading. I think this was more for those who really intuitively knew that this was the one. I think this is a very important, monumental thing that's happening. You're making a very big decision, and it's going to be impactful. You're going to look back at this and be like, yeah, no, that set off a chain of other things. It's very possible the thing you're pursuing is not the exact thing that you're going to see like the results of, but I think it's going to domino effect into, and you're going to be like, wow, this was actually really important. So taking time and like really thinking this through is important and good. A lot of major arcana has shown up, which is very specific. And also, like, again, don't push your emotions to the side. Your emotions are valid and important, and you need to allow them to exist. And I also talk to people. You need to reach out to other people. I think it would be really beneficial because you're starting that fool's journey again. I think we're going to be kind of redoing stuff. Don't be afraid of mentors. Don't be afraid of other people's advice and stuff. It's okay to have people put their input in, and whether you listen to it or not, it's good to at least listen. People care about you. It's them showing you that they care. That's really what it is at the core of it, and I know that can be very frustrating. That they don't always see it like eye to eye, but at the core of it, they do care about you. So we're going to have one last very hard question. Even if you don't succeed in material terms, do you want to go ahead and do this? This card has been chatting with me for a minute here now. It really wants to be this card. But seriously, and this might be one that you just like kind of sit and like process before we even get into the card, because this can be, again, because it's a general reading, it's not going to be perfect for everybody. But this is something that I think is a very important question. If you don't succeed in material terms, are you still willing to do this? Are you willing to do it for 0 likes? For 1 like that's just your friend that you know is on your side for this? Are you willing to do this for 0 sales or whatever? Like, are you okay with that? Are you still willing to pursue this opportunity? Are you still willing to organize the event even if no one shows up? Are you willing to make the project even if halfway through you realize you hate it, you don't want to make it anymore? Are you still wanting to go ahead? And we have the 7 of Pentacles. And we have this cute little owl looking at the bushel. And I think you really truly believe in, if you put in the work, you'll get an output. And I hope you realize that that's pretty much true in all things, even if that output isn't necessarily what you thought it would be. There is emotional, mental, all of that stuff that can like turn around and be really good for you and have a really good result. Things can turn out, can just be amazing, even if it's not the result you had. I do think though that with the 7 of Pentacles that like the 7s are often about like your faith in something. And so like for this owl planted all of the stuff into the garden, and then it's trusting that the plant will grow. A lot of the sevens deal with like kind of negative aspects, and sometimes you have to realize that sometimes the things don't grow. Sometimes the season isn't right. Sometimes there's a drought. And I think coming to the realization that this might not work out is very important. And so the 7 is kind of an interesting thing of where you have to be okay with putting your faith in this and just like leaving it there. And I don't know if you're willing or are quite willing to do that, really. I think there is a little bit of resistance to that. And I think some serious thought of, do you want to go ahead with this, is important. And very, very important for this. As I've discussed, this is a big thing for you. Big changes, big determining stuff. You seem like somebody who's got their head on their shoulders straight, and you know what's going on. And I think you're not quite ready to have... Yeah, interesting. You're not quite ready to have, like, all this change at once, but it's part of this process is that you're going to have a lot of change. Timing-wise, I know we were discussing with that Judgment card that some of the other cards might add some timing. You're really in between. The Pentacles are some of the slowest cards. Well, the Swords is, like, the fastest, and the Wands kind of in between. I really think you're kind of in this in-between where it's not... like a slow, steady pace necessarily, but it's also not like just jumping in and like head first or like jumping in feet first kind of a deal. Like, woohoo, here we go. Like, we're just going to find out. It's more of a like, yeah, we're going to dip a toe. We're going to take a step in. We're going to tip a toe, take a step in. We're going to like kind of get used to it. But like, we're not like slowly walking, adjusting, like letting our body fully adjust to the water. It's like, nope. But we're going to still like make progress into it, if that makes sense. Thank you for letting me read for you, by the way. This one was fun. I think it's very cool. This is like a side personal note, how the colors kind of ended up looking, and I think this ended up working out really nicely. I think there's a lot of resistance, and that's hard. And I know with a general reading, especially, some things hit and some things don't, and that's, whatever it is. I'm curious as to what you're trying to pursue. I think this is one that it would be nice to have you sitting in front of me so you could have a discussion of like, or at least like get more details about what you're pursuing, because I think it would be very beneficial to tell you like what specific things need to drop and be done with and whatnot. So I don't believe your fate is set in stone, by the way. I think that you have the power to change it. So if you want that 7 of Pentacles to be the fruits of your labor, or if you want it to just be like, well, it is what it is, I didn't even try, that's up to you. Like, you can change your future. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to end stuff. You can just let it be. I do truly believe that you have power to change a good chunk of your fate. Not all of it. I think there are certain amounts of things that it's like, well, I don't think you had the power to change that, but there is some things that you definitely can be in charge of and handle and do. And feel free to take that and do what you can with it. I think that's really important and wonderful that you have that power and are able to do that power. So either work harder or, figure out some things, get your ducks in a row, and, make this work. I'm excited for you. I think you can do it, and I think you just need to find that belief in yourself that you can also do it. Thank you so much, Pile 4, for letting me read for you today, and I wish you the best in going forward.